Hey everyone, welcome to another video in this series on creating an AI-ready backend with Azure Cosmos DB, NoSQL, Azure Functions, and FastAPI and the Python SDK. We've covered data modeling, we've covered client configuration, we've covered async, and today we're covering batch operations. Don't forget to check out the resources and the repository linked in the description. Like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with all future videos that we do. Let's dive right in. So let's say we get a product catalog that has many products and we need our API to add them. Well, we don't want to have to do it one by one, right? We want to be able to just say like, hey, here's all the products, go and add them. And when we think of working with AI applications, most likely we're going to have to work with like a lot of vector embeddings, and that's also going to be many numbers. So we need functionality to be able to work with large amounts of data, creating, updating, deleting, and things like that. So the key insight for working with batch operations in Cosmos DB is that we need to target a partition, right? Which in our case means that we need to organize things by category because we've selected category as our partition key. We saw that in video 1. Just as a reminder, the partition key is how Cosmos DB decides how to partition your data across physical servers. So it would make sense that we would want to have all these items be updated or created or whatever it is against partition versus going through, okay, partition 1, then it has to go to this one, then it has to go to the other, and that doesn't seem very efficient. So what we're doing first is we're going to get all that data, right? And then we're going to group those products by category. So what we'll end up with is a dictionary where this the key is going to be the name of the category, so electronics, books, clothing, things like that. And then the list ends up being, or the value, I should say, ends up being a list of these products. And you can start to see the real value of these pedantic models. And here we don't have to define, oh, like this type of thing or like this key value or nothing like that. All we have to do is say, it's going to be a list of type product create, right? So nice and clean, very straightforward to understand. Right? So now the magic happens here with our tasks where we're using the async.io package to create a task for each of these categories, right? So we're going to process each of these grouped by categories or products by categories that we've created. And inside of each one of these, we're going to make sure that we process category creates, which means we're going to go through each of these items and make sure they're ready to be, in this case, created. That could be setting new fields, so ID, status, less updating, normalizing, any additional validations, or creating things. And here we're converting decimal into float for Cosmos DB. And then once everything's ready to go, we can go ahead and use the batch operations for db.append, which will expect a tuple. And this will expect the name of the operation that we want to do, which is in our case create, the actual data that we're sending here, and then any additional options, which we're not sending any at the moment, right? We have some exception handling and error handling. We're going to cover that in another video just to keep this one concise and on topic. So let's scroll back down to that tasks code and continue taking a look at what's going on here. So yeah, all of the tasks run concurrently, so we can make those batch operations for each category. And then we have asyncio.gather, which is going to wait for the tasks to complete and then gather the results. And if any of the batches fail, well, gather will raise the exception here. And do keep in mind that these are transactional batches, so if an item fails inside the batch, then the whole batch is going to fail. More of a traditional like bulk functionality that you may think of, like sending 100 items in bulk, and then the ones that succeed, and the ones that don't succeed, they fail. That does not exist in the Python SDK for Azure Cosmos DB quite yet, but we do have this transactional batch that we can use. And there is a workaround for that. I will link a resource in the description if that's what you're looking for. But we can leverage transactional batches as well. And then we will just have all the results here. If all the batches succeed, we'll get here, right? If we take a look at our product route batch. So these are our endpoints for our batch operations. Our add products batch, which is what is calling that create products that we just take a look at, is very, very simple. And that is thanks to, well, one, we're leveraging these models. Once again, in this case, we're using product batch create. So if we take a look at this one, we see that it inherits from batch operation. So it has everything required from this batch operation base model. And additionally, it has items, which are here. Look at this, another model, product create. So it's going to have items, which are a list of product create. If we select product create, it is essentially now just inheriting or like leveraging, inheriting all the fields from the product base model. And these are the things that we expect when we are creating a model. If we go back to our route, we see we don't have to define anything additional. We're just saying this is a model that we want. And this is the beauty of really defining your models correctly with those Pydantic models. It makes programming your API so much simpler, so much easier to understand. And then once again, we are leveraging that dependency injection to get the products container, and we got the container proxy here. So all we have to do to send to our create products is send that container and then send that data that we want updated. In the demo repository, it's in the description. Feel free to go and deploy this application on your own. Once it's up and running, you can go ahead and grab all the items. I believe there's like 100 of them in that sample.json, and then give your batch create endpoint a spin, see how it goes. And then in the comments, let me know anything that you've encountered. And that is it for this video. We have one more left where we're going to be covering error handling and exceptions. So be sure to stay tuned for that one. Any questions that you have, feel free to drop them in the comments. Be sure to check out the resources listed in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.